The Woman in the Box, a kidnapping story that shook Georgia. The box on the porch. Hands. Show me your hands. The deputy's voice shattered the quiet morning of June 3, 2024, in the small town of Crandall, Georgia. The call had come in strange and panicked. Someone reported a woman hiding on a porch, terrified out of her mind. When the officers arrived, they didn't expect to find a pale, bruised young woman trembling inside a wooden storage box. "Please," she whispered, voice cracking. "Don't let him find me. He's armed." Her name was Cassidy Parker, 29 years old, barefoot, bleeding, and shaking. She'd been found by a local homeowner who opened his back door to see her crouched in the shadows, covered in dirt and dried blood. The man immediately called 911, saying she begged him not to let anyone see her. When the deputies approached, Cassidy lifted her trembling hands. "I didn't do anything," she cried. The officer knelt beside her, noticing her collarbone hanging oddly beneath her skin and her swollen wrists. "You're not in trouble, ma'am. You're safe now," he said softly. But Cassidy didn't believe it. "He's across the road," she whispered. "In a red truck. Please, he'll come if he sees your car." The deputy motioned to his partner, who started scanning the nearby hillside. And there it was, a lifted red Dodge Ram parked crookedly near a trailer up the hill, engine still warm. "Who did this to you?" the deputy asked. "My fiancé," Cassidy sobbed. Nick Crane. "He'll kill me if he finds out I talked to you." As the officers helped her to her feet, Cassidy begged them to keep her hidden until the ambulance arrived. "He's got guns," she said through tears. "A .45 and another one, small and black. He hit me last night. He tried to drown me." One deputy stayed with her, while the other moved quietly up the road toward the house. The air was heavy, humid, and still. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked, a lonely, warning sound. Moments later, a man stepped out onto his porch, limping slightly. "Morning, officer." "What's going on?" he said casually. "You Nick Crane?" "Yeah." "Is this about my fiancée?" "I just woke up and she was gone." Nick spoke smoothly, but his eyes darted toward the deputy's car parked down the hill. "We had a little argument, nothing serious," he said. "I don't know what she's told you, but she's got a habit of running off." "Mind if I look inside your house?" the deputy asked. Nick's tone hardened. "Not without a warrant." Back at the patrol car, Cassidy sat wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was shallow, and her words came in fragments. "He hit me with something heavy," she said. "I blacked out. When I woke up, there was blood everywhere. On the walls, the floor. I ran barefoot through the woods until I saw lights." The deputy swallowed hard. He'd seen bruises before, but the terror in her eyes, pure, animal fear, was different. By the time the ambulance arrived, another unit had blocked off the road near Nick's property. The deputies exchanged glances, they both knew something wasn't right. When the second officer returned, his face was pale. "We're going to need a search warrant," he muttered. "She said he tried to drown her in the bathroom. If that's true, there's going to be blood." As Cassidy was lifted onto a stretcher, she gripped the deputy's hand tightly. "Don't let him get away," she whispered. "He told me he'd put me in a box so no one would ever find me." The deputy looked up toward the red truck on the hill, its chrome shining in the sun. He didn't yet know how true her words were, because inside that house waited a scene so brutal it would haunt Georgia law enforcement for years to come, the house on the hill. The warrant came through just before noon. A light drizzle had started to fall over Crandall, coating everything in a gray mist that made the old hilltop house look even more sinister. Deputies gathered near the property line, radios crackling, as Detective Michael "Tiny" Malone arrived to lead the search. Despite his nickname, Tiny was built like a linebacker, his presence commanding instant silence. "All right," he said, pulling on a pair of gloves. "Let's find out what really happened here." Nick Crane stood on his porch, leaning against the railing with a calm that made everyone uneasy. His ankle was wrapped in a makeshift bandage, and his hands fidgeted constantly. "I told you," he said. "She was fine when we went to bed. I don't know why she's saying all this." Tiny studied him for a long moment, then nodded to his team. "Let's take a look." The first room. The front of the house looked normal, too normal. A family photo hung slightly crooked on the wall. Dishes filled the sink. But as they moved down the hallway, the illusion of normalcy shattered. "Blood," one of the deputies muttered. Tiny knelt beside a smear on the floor, running his gloved finger over it. "It's fresh," he said. "And there's drag marks, something heavy was pulled through here." The smell hit them next, a mix of bleach, sweat, and iron. Tiny followed the trail into the bedroom. The fan lay broken on the floor, its blades bent. A dresser drawer was ripped out, clothes scattered everywhere. The sheets were gone. "What the hell happened in here?" one officer whispered. Tiny's flashlight beam stopped on something small and shiny under the bed. "Got a magazine clip here," he said. 9mm. "And look at this, blood on the corner of the nightstand." He stepped toward the adjoining bathroom, heart pounding. The door creaked as it opened. The bathroom. Even hardened officers froze when they saw it. There was blood on the toilet, blood smeared along the wall, and a torn women's shirt lying in the corner. The tile floor was slick with dried stains. Beside the tub sat 2 ice packs, still cold to the touch, and a tomahawk-style hand axe resting on the counter. "Oh, my God," one deputy whispered. Tiny crouched, inspecting the axe. "There's a blood line on the blade," he said quietly. "Looks like she wasn't lying." The realization sank in, Cassidy's story wasn't a desperate lie. It was the truth. "Take photos of everything," Tiny ordered. "Get forensics in here, now." As the team documented the room, another deputy shouted from the hall. "Detective! There's blood in the carpet leading into a back closet." Tiny rushed over. Inside the closet, they found a wooden storage box, about 3 feet long, with bloodstains along the lid. The latch was bent. "That's it," Tiny muttered. "That's the box she hid in." The confrontation. Nick stood outside, watching from the porch as officers came and went. His face stayed calm, but his eyes darted nervously. "Nick," Tiny said as he stepped out, "we found blood in nearly every room of your house. You want to tell me how that happened?" Nick shrugged. "She cuts herself sometimes," he said flatly. "It's not what it looks like." Tiny's expression hardened. "You're right, it's worse than it looks." "Am I being arrested?" "Not yet," Tiny said, "but don't go anywhere." Inside, the team was still uncovering more evidence, a pillow stained with blood, a broken phone, and even a bullet casing near the bed. Everything pointed to a violent struggle. Then came the call from the hospital. Cassidy had multiple head wounds, bruised ribs, and a fractured collarbone. Doctors said it was a miracle she survived. Tiny took a deep breath and turned back to the house. "All right," he said into his radio. "He's not walking away from this." The arrest. When the deputies moved to cuff Nick, he didn't resist. He simply muttered under his breath, "She always takes things too far." Tiny stared at him. "Too far? You nearly killed her, son." Nick looked up, a twisted smirk forming. "You don't know her. She likes drama. You'll see." As he was led to the patrol car, rain began to fall harder, washing streaks of dirt down the driveway. Neighbors had gathered quietly at the bottom of the hill, people who had seen Cassidy before, bruised and scared, but too afraid to speak up. "She's run before," one woman said softly. "But this time, she almost didn't make it." Tiny stood in the rain, looking up at the old house. "Get a detective team in here tonight," he said. "We're missing something. This doesn't end with the blood. There's more to this story." And he was right, because when Cassidy finally woke up in the hospital, her next words would turn this already horrifying case into something no one expected, the truth inside the box. The hospital room was silent except for the faint hum of the monitors. Cassidy lay in the bed, her head wrapped in white gauze, her eyes swollen but awake. The light from the hallway spilled softly across her face as Detective Malone, tiny, stepped inside, hat in hand. He offered a gentle smile. "Hey there, Cassidy. You remember me?" Her voice trembled. "You're the one who found the axe." Tiny nodded. "That's right. And I'm here because I need to know everything. Don't rush it. Just, tell me what really happened in that house." Cassidy's hands shook as she clutched the blanket. "It started over something stupid," she whispered. "He said I embarrassed him. He was drinking again. I tried to pack a bag, but when he saw me, he lost it." Tiny leaned forward. "What did he do first?" "He threw the table at me," she said, tears welling up. "Then he grabbed me by the hair and slammed my head against the floor. When I tried to crawl away, he hit me with something, I don't know what at first. Later, I saw it. That axe. Cassidy's nightmare." Her voice broke as she continued. "He kept saying he was going to put me in a box so I'd finally be quiet. He dragged me into the bathroom by my ankle. My head was bleeding, and I begged him to stop. That's when he took my face and shoved it into the toilet. He just held it there. I thought I was going to die." Tiny's jaw clenched. "How did you get out?" "I don't even remember," she said faintly. "I must have blacked out. When I came to, he was cleaning up. He told me not to move. Said if I made a sound, he'd finish what he started." She paused, eyes darting toward the ceiling as if replaying it all in her mind. "I waited until I heard him go outside. I crawled into that wooden box on the porch and stayed there. I could still hear him moving around. Every creak sounded like he was coming back. I stayed until I saw headlights, until your deputies came." Tiny took a deep breath. He'd heard hundreds of statements before, but this one was different. Every detail she gave lined up perfectly with the blood patterns, the broken furniture, and the drag marks they found. It wasn't just a domestic dispute, it was torture. The interrogation. Across town, Nick Crane sat in an interrogation room, hands cuffed, eyes dark. His calmness had vanished, replaced by a cold, detached arrogance. Detective Deal leaned on the table. "Cassidy's alive," he said. "She's talking. Everything she said lines up with what we found in your house." Nick smirked. "She's dramatic. Likes attention. Blood on your gun barrel says otherwise," Deal shot back. "So does the axe. And the toilet." Nick's smirk faltered for just a moment. "You think you know what happened, but you don't," he muttered. Tiny entered the room quietly, setting a folder down on the table. Inside were photos, bloody footprints, the broken fan, the box. He didn't say a word, just opened each photo slowly, one by one. Nick's eyes twitched when he saw the box. "Recognize that?" Tiny asked softly. Nick swallowed. "It's just storage. She hides things in there." "She sure did," Tiny replied. "She hid herself." Silence filled the room. The air felt thick with guilt and denial. Then Tiny leaned closer. "Your son was in that house, Nick. He heard everything. You think that's the kind of example you want to set?" Nick's face turned pale. He looked down, his voice barely audible. "You don't understand. She was going to leave me." Tiny stood up. "You're right. I don't understand how someone could do this to the person they claim to love." The verdict. Months later, the case went to trial. The courtroom was packed, locals, reporters, even former neighbors who had once ignored Cassidy's bruises. When she took the stand, her voice shook but never broke. She described the fear, the humiliation, the box. Nick sat across from her, expression blank. When the verdict was read, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Guilty on all counts. Kidnapping with bodily injury. Aggravated assault. Possession of a firearm during a felony. cruelty to a child. Life in prison, plus 25 years. Cassidy cried quietly into her mother's arms. For the first time in a long while, she felt safe. Epilogue, The Box. A year later, Detective Tiny Malone drove past the old house on the hill. It sat empty now, the red truck gone, the windows boarded. He stopped by the porch, the same porch where a terrified woman once hid in a box, praying someone would find her before he did. The wooden box still sat there, weathered and warped by rain. Tiny stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "You survived, Cassidy. You beat him." He turned to leave, the afternoon sun cutting through the clouds above the trees. Somewhere, far from that place, Cassidy was starting over, alive, scarred, but free. And the box that once held her fear now stood as a silent witness to her strength.